Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today in this video I'm going to be coloring some trading cards I made or drew and lined a few days ago. And I'll be coloring them with Ohuhu brush markers. Let's get started. I think I'm going to go for the skin first. Artist trading cards are very similar to pretty much any type of trading card out there, only it has your art on it. Your OC usually is an OC of yours, and some will have information about the character on it. For me, I decided to just put the names of the stories they go with because I name my characters' stories, and then I put their names up on top. I also put the date on it so I know when I created them or how old they are. These are the first ones I've ever made, so I had lots of fun with this. I probably will do it more in the future. When I do it more in the future, I probably will do it a little differently, put a little more information about them on it. Yeah, these trading cards, pretty much you trade them with other artists out there that also have them. And I think there are other ways that you can trade with them out there. The one I'm most familiar with is just, trading. So, yeah, lots of fun. I just pulled this out, and the lid just it didn't come with it. Oh my goodness. I wonder if it's still any good. Oh no! One of my favorite, most used markers is all dried out on that side. That's horrible. Oh well, at least the brush tip is still good. Maybe I should do their hair now. And I know Amber's hair isn't red. It's more of an orangey red. But Ethelda's might be more of a red. The materials I used for making these are cardstock, which I picked up from the Family Dollar store, a mechanical pencil, a Sharpie fine liner, which I believe is also from the dollar store, and I also used a cheap pen. Now, the cheap pen that I used is not alcohol. Well, you can't really use it with alcohol-based markers because it'll bleed, but I use it after I'm done using the markers. It has a thinner tip than the Sharpie fine liner I have, so. Then I have a white jelly roll that I use for highlights, Ohuhu brush markers. I own the 120 pack, I believe. Yeah. Colored pencils, I mostly used Prismacolors, and then scissors to cut them out, and laminating paper, and also the laminating machine, which I use to laminate them, of course. Hair is done for the most part, except I will go in later or with colored pencils and add more detail and such. But time for the clothing. The first thing I did to make these was draw out the dimensions across the paper. I made 9. I could fit 9 on the paper. And then I drew out the designs or the borders for each one, their names and name of the story. I didn't draw in the characters until after all the designs were finished. And some designs for certain characters, the border designs are the same because they're from the same story, and I wanted to keep those the same. And after I drew them, I lined them with the Sharpie fine liner. I did not use the thin one because, of course, the alcohol-based markers would have messed that up. And I wanted to keep the original sketch layer because I prefer not to line teeny tiny drawings or faces. But I did line them. I didn't line the faces. I actually used a colored pencil for that, and then I used the thinner liner to go in afterwards and define those features. But I did line everything else, and then I colored them. I was going to print out the whole paper on a separate piece of cardstock so that I wouldn't have to line it, and then I would line it when I was done. But I tried 2 different times, I think, printing them, but it would always cut off the sides because, of course, when you print something, there has to be a border. So I was not able to print them out, but it still turned out really nicely. So I was happy with the results. The first thing I did was color the skin. Yeah, I was gonna say hair. I did the hair second, so the skin first, because it's kind of the way I color everything, portraits, all sorts of things. The hair, sometimes I will do afterwards though, because there will be flyaways, and I don't want to do the hair first. Then when I do the clothing, it messes up that. But since these were smaller drawings, I didn't have to worry about that. So I did the hair second. I did Ethelda's hair last because I wasn't sure how I was going to color hers, because her hair is a different color than the original red that I did Amber's. Amber was the first one I did. After the hair, I did the clothing. The clothing I had lots of fun with. I've been really enjoying doing clothing lately with watercolor and marker. I found this method of coloring while also getting vibrant highlights and wrinkles and all of that sorts. I really liked how Ethelda's red dress turned out. I like how the highlights are very vibrant, because I went and did an underlayer of orange first, and then I went over with the red, and I actually shaded it with a dark gray blue, so I liked how that turned out. Yeah, I've really been enjoying the way these markers, they took some getting used to, I must admit, because they're a completely different medium than watercolor, but I found a way to alter the way I use them, and watercolor too. I've gotten faster watercolor, faster than I used to be. The backgrounds they were one of the last things I colored in, and the color value of those are a lot lighter than the characters themselves, to help bring out more contrast in the art. I think that's it for the characters. I just gotta do their backgrounds and the borders. I have markers everywhere, literally. Here I am doing the backgrounds now. I really liked how they turned out. Most of them anyway. There were a couple I didn't care for as much. Jane Winters was my least favorite. I wish I hadn't chosen such a vibrant pink, but it still looks nice. And Lady Haley's is a purple. I kind of wish I had done a different one color than that. I really liked the beiges, the grays, and the blues. Those all turned out nice. But there were a couple that didn't turn out as I expected. I did go over the pink one with gray, but that kind of made it look even worse. Try it. Yep, this is the one. It'll look very good. I only did a brown border for the 3 that were from the same story, because with all the other ones, the words were in the borders, and I used such a dark brown, it would have kind of messed up that. You wouldn't have been able to read them. I left the other ones white for that reason. time for the gel pen. I'm going to go over all of these, add better highlights in certain areas, and then I think they'll be ready to cut out and laminate. Okay, I think it's done. I did go in with colored pencils and define some areas. I fixed up their eyes. I used a pen, a thinner pen. Because I used the alcohol-based markers first, I was able to go in with this cheap thin pen and get nice, clean, crisp lines for some of them. And it not bleed. If I did this, used this for line art first, it definitely would have messed up everything. So that's why I saved this to do details for last. But here we have these, and now I just have to cut them out and laminate them. Okay everyone, here they are, all finished. 9 artist trading cards. So we have Ethelda, my most recent original character. Jane, not as recent as Ethelda, but she is more recent. Alexa and Sir Asher. I wrote their entire story. I just have to edit the second draft, or I have to finish the second draft. We have Rowan. I actually finished and edited her story. It's kind of like a long children's book. Then we have Arwen. Her story to me is completely developed, and her character, even though I haven't written the entire thing. I started it years ago, and her story is one of my favorites. I don't know how I did it, but somehow. Then we have Emariah, main original character, or main protagonist in my book series that I will write eventually, called Warriors of the King. Lady Haley, Amber, and Golvana, one of my oldest OCs that I made with my cousin, and she is a bad girl. So I was gonna do Lilith, which is one of the main protagonists from Beyond the Black Mountains, but because my cousin and I developed Golvana more, I ended up going with her. So here they are, all laminated, all finished. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys all next week. Bye!